Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Shekhar. So I have 10 plus years of experience in IT. Today I would like to give some small brief about Kubernetes and how it works and what is the benefits and how it is the architecture it looks like. So let us go into the Kubernetes. So basically what is Kubernetes? Kubernetes we can call as Q8s as well. So Q8s, the name why Q8s became now Kubernetes. Kubernetes, the letters between K and S are 8. So the reason is the generally called as K8s. So what is K8s? What is Kubernetes? So what is the official definition? Official definition of K8s. So generally what is official definition is nothing but it is a open source containerization tool. So what is containerization tool? So basically we have many containerization tools like Docker. So this is Kubernetes, which is more performance wise, is more better than Docker. So even though in the in K8s we can use the Docker as well. So basically it is a free tool, is open source tool, is developed by Google. Who developed is Google developed. Okay, Google Google developed it. Google developed. So what is the uses of K8s? K8s helps you to manage containerization applications. So containerization applications in different environments, like it might be a physical machine, virtual machine, or it might be a cloud environment, or it in the hybrid model. So it helps to manage containerization applications in different environments. For this we'll use the Kubernetes. So what is the actually what problem does Q8 solve? So what problem does Q8 solve? Why it is there? Why it is required? So what is the purpose? What is the what problems? What problems does and what is the use? So what are the tasks we need to do in this tool? So basically earlier we has monolithic. So monolithic earlier in the legacy, it is a legacy, you can say a legacy classic model. So now the microservices. So what is monolithic is nothing but, so let us say we take the Amazon. So in Amazon is a e-commerce website. In Amazon, let us imagine Amazon is a e-commerce website where it is having different modules. Login module is there, and the other option is like a cart, add to cart, and the other module is product is management. It's like a product catalog, you can say product management. And the next one is payment gateway. So payment gateway. So these four, like example, let's say if I go to Amazon, we have the different modules. These 4 modules. So you go to the monolithic as example, these 4 modules, the code, whatever the code or everything, that will be in the single process. So it is a one code base, it is having single code base. So single code base is used in monolithic, and adding new feature and adding existing some issues need to be added to the same. Suppose if anything, a bug is there, so in order to fix the bug in the same code base, they need to implement the code changes. So the code maintenance is difficult, because the performance wise also it is very difficult if you use single code base, because it is more burden if you write all the modules in a same single code base. The database structure and the front end, everything will be on the same. The services, whatever the services, payment gateway service, so all will be in monolithic. So that is the reason the but these microservices are introduced. So in microservices, every module has its own process. So it is having its own process. Its own process in the sense, own process means every module. In the example of Amazon, login module have its own process, I to cut have own process, and product management having its own process. Okay, so and also the payment gateway having its own process. So what is this? These are the independent four separate entities here, but here in the monolith everything will be in a single service, so single code base. So that is the reason. So what does this tool offer? As I said, what features do this tool offer? Tool offer. So what does this tool offer generally? I can say first one is highly available. High availability. High availability. High availability. Do you know the meaning of high availability? High availability is nothing but there will be a no downtime. Earlier there is a lot of downtimes in the classical architecture, stay monolithic. In the classical, the legacy system, they're having high availability issues because there will be always downtime. The production issues will be there always. When there is a new feature is deployed, there will be issues. So there is here in microservices there will be no downtime. That is called high availability. Next is scalability. Scalability is one more important feature, which is the tool offering scalability. Scalability is nothing but is having high performance. Scaling means is having high performance. The third one is disaster recovery. So disaster recovery, backup and restore. Suppose a data center is having some floods, some fire happen into the data center. Immediately in the data center, the backup and recovery will be immediately. It won't be any no effect in the other data center will be on, and the system will be, there will be no downtime. So there will be this is the advantage of this tool. So next, coming to the tools, what are the, I can say not tools, QAD's components. What are the components that presents in QAD's? The components, coming to the components, there is having, so each component is having lakhs, tons of components are there. As a DevOps engineer, everyone has to know about these components. So the important components are nothing but node and pod. So node and pod. So what is a node? Node is nothing but a small, like a smallest unit of the kit. So node is nothing but a smallest piece in the Q8 is called, in the smallest unit present in the Q8 is called the pod. So let us say in the pod, usually you can say each pod having its own IP address. Let us say I'll tell you through drawing. So let us say here I'll tell this is, suppose this is a node, you can say. So this is a node. Okay, in this node is a node. Okay, this is a node. In this node we have is node. Node is nothing but is a cluster. So in the node we can have a pod, different pods, not only a single pod, maybe different pods. Let us say this is one pod and this is one more pod. Okay, these two parts are there. So these two parts, okay, these two parts are in the each. This is like a, this is a application, this is app, this is DB, this is the DB. So here app and DB. So this is one part, the other one is, this is part 1, this is part 1, this is part 2. There are two parts in this node, one is application, the other one is database. So each part is having its own IP address. This is having its own IP address, IP, and is having its own IP address. It's having each IP having its own IP address. So this is one part, this is other part. Okay, like this there are so many parts will be present in a node. So when a pod is one pod is crashed due to some reasons, immediately one more pod will be created but with different IP address. Let us say my app is there. Sometimes it is a usual thing, it's a common thing in the node. A pod will be crashed and immediately there is a pod is there, no, this pod is crashed, immediately there one more pod is created. The pod is the same, is nothing but it's a replica of the same pod 1, and there is one more pod created. The difference is there will be new IP generated with the pod, everything will be same. So that is the there. So there is a call, this called the service. There is a concept called service. Using service, the each pod is connected, one pod is connected to other pod using service and ingress. These are important. What is ingress? What is service? This is very important during interview. Using service, thus one pod is common with other pod. Let us say each pod has its own IP address. So service is act as a service. There will be a service here. It is having own service. So the service is not depend on this pod. It is having its own IP address. It is having its own. In case if it is crashed also, the service IP address won't change. So using service, one pod is with other pod. So because the IP address is different for this IP address and this IP address, even though this is crash, this IP is changed, but this service IP won't change, and this service IP and this service IP will be connected each other in a pod, in a node. There are how they are connected each other using this service. So this is a way it's communicate each other in the pods. In the node, what happened is this is called the there will be some external services are there, like app should be accessible from the browser. So we need to create a external service, that is nothing but some HTTP, some IP address and the port which is accessible from the browser. For that now we use the ingress. The concept of external services opens the communication from external source. So obviously you want to some database to open the public UKs. For that you need to create a internal service. Okay, so this is about the ingress. Ingress is nothing but from the external service you want to communicate with the database. It's nothing but, suppose I am saying, I'll tell you, it's not big deal. So suppose I have a here I want to my application is browsed through some HTTP and let's say app and service IP and service IP and the port. So it is when it is accessible. So for this IP to access, so the DB port should be open. So this is the browsing from the external. So whenever hit the this one, so there will be internal service also need to be created. The internal service should be some IP address of this DB with related respective port. So that is can be done using ingress. It goes to the ingress and forwarding from there to the service. So next one is what is the config map and the secret key. That is also important. Config map and secret key. Config map and secret key. So basically config map is nothing but usually in other legacy applications we have the web.config file, right? The same thing. Instead of web.config where we have the connection strings and all, no? So here we have the config map. So we will keep our database URLs, endpoints. So we will what are the configurations that we can do in the config map. So and application properties that will be placed in the config map. So in the config map, suppose we'll keep connection string and database name. The database name we can keep, but the passwords and the credentials here we can keep the connection strings and what you can say URLs, endpoints of DB or anything, endpoints, etc. will be placed in the config map. Whereas in the secret key is nothing but credentials. Maintain the credentials, username and passwords. Credentials will keep in the secrets. So secret is like config map but store secret data. Likewise credentials, passwords, these things, but it is not like a direct format like ABCD, not like this. It should be encrypted. It is not in the, it is a base 64 encoded in this format, the it will be visible like this, but you cannot see. So this is a base 64 encoded format. It is not a plain text, it should be base 64 encoded format. So the built-in security mechanism is not enabled. The build security mechanism is not built, so we have to explicitly enable the security mechanism. So this part, service, ingress, external internal services, we understand configuration, config map and the secret key. Next we go to the data storage. This is also important. Data storage. So storage, generally whenever we get a storage, we have the application pod and the database pod and the storage on the local machine on the same server, or it might be the pod is running. Suppose example, I will take the same example. Let us say one second, this one. Okay, so there is a one node. Under this there is a one pod and one more pod, the two pods. So this pod might be is related to the storage. This is application. This is related to application. This related to database DB. So the storage is might be on the local machine, or might be remote. Okay, on the same node we can keep where the pod is running, or otherwise we can keep remotely. Okay, it could be a cloud or on-premises environment. Where is the storage? It will be the storage will be calculated in volumes, and this will be stored on local machine, local or remote, or you can say cloud or on-prem. Wherever the storage is not, it might be any place, not only in a same machine or like that. Yeah. and this is about the storage. So next is important is the Q8's architectures. Q8 architecture. What is the architecture of Q8? So in the Q8 there are basically two types of nodes. Two types of nodes. How many types? The Q8's architecture, one is master, the other one is node. We can also call as worker service, worker server, worker server. Okay, so it can call as a master. One is the other node is node, master and node. So each node is having multiple, okay, each node having multiple parts on it. You can say this is a node, right? In a node there will be multiple parts on it. So 3 processes must be installed in every node. This is a node, this is a node, not sorry, this is entire node, this is a part, right? So like this you have one more node. Let's say I have one more node, this is one more node, and example I'm telling, this is a node, and this node having again 2 parts, let us say 2 parts. So this is one part and this is one part, and this is parts. This is the node 2, this is node 1. So in each node, so what is the use? So there are different types of nodes are there. It might be a node means nothing but it is a worker node. Worker node is to actual work, that is called the actual work can be done through the worker node, that is called worker node, worker actual work. So as I said, 3 processes must be installed. As I said, 3 processes is important, must be installed on every node, not pod, on node, okay. So the first process is nothing but the container runtime. The first process that need to be run every node is a container runtime. Container runtime is the first process. The next process is one, okay. So this is the first. The next process is kubelet. I'll tell you kubelet and all in the next sessions. We can know deep dive we'll go through. And third one is the kubeproxy, what it is and everything. We'll learn all these in detail, not to worry. What is kubelet and kubeproxy? So kubelet, so container runtime should be present and kubelet should be present. So kubelet interact with both container as well as the node. Kubelet is act as a act to connect, to interact with both container runtime as well as the node. It will be used as a mediator to connect container runtime as well as the worker node. So that is the use of the kubelet. Next one is the kubeproxy. So kubeproxy forwards the request how you interact with the cluster. So the use of the kubeproxy is it only forwards, it requests, when request from it forwards. So how do you interact with the cluster? So how to do schedule pod, one is, so how to do that is schedule pod and monitor. So there are so many, so monitor and you can say reschedule or restart the pod, reschedule, restart. You can say restart pod, sorry, reschedule, restart pod to join new node. These are the, so how the kube proxy will help to forward, interact with the other cluster, like creating a new pod and scheduling a pod, and how to join the new pod and reschedule and stop the pod and restart the pod. This will be taken care. So this all will be managed. So who will be manage all these things? So monitor, schedule, everything will be managed by the master node. We covered this master node. The other concept in the architecture is master node. So master node, so like here we has a this worker node where we have the 3 processes, like this here having the 4 process. So 4 process. So master node is also having not in the here we have only 3 process, right? So here we have in the node we have the here we have 3 processing. Suppose it is a slave, it can worker node. It's a worker, so it might be same. Okay, so it might be can take one more. It is also a worker node maybe. So we have like many worker nodes, like we also have the master node. So in the master node, let us say this is a master node. Assume master node. So here the, as I said, 4 services, 4 processes, not services, 4 processes running on each master. One is API server, the other one is, first one is API server. So what is API server? API server, when a user want to deploy, suppose a user want to deploy any new application in a cluster, so it has to interact with the, first it has to interact with the API server. It's a main API server. So first, what to interact with this, what we have to use is the command line tool, like it's called a kubelet. Okay, we have to, first one is the API server, then next one is the scheduler. So scheduler and controller manager we can call it. And next is a etcd. Next important is etcd. So these are the 4 modules are there. So we have these 4 modules, the processes, the 4 processes are there here. So what are the apps? It's called API server, other one is scheduler and a controller mode, and the etcd. So whenever a request to come, it has to go to the some request. Suppose some request came, it has to reach to request. It has to go to first where API server. As I said, no. When where it will go? It will go to the API server. API service. You can say API service. Next, you will go to the, it's validate the service. It will validate request. Then it will go to process. Then it will go to the pod. So this is the API server task. Then scheduler. So scheduler, what it will do again? Scheduler creates a new pod. Let us say created a new pod and it will again, when the request come, again it will go to the API server. Actually it is not a service, it's called a server. API server and validate the request and go to the where it has to go to the pod. I am saying pod. So which pod? So that will created by the controller manager. As this is one of the process of controller manager. This is one of the process present in the master node. So whenever as I said, pod is usually dies. As I say, no, whenever the pod is crashes, one pod is crashes, immediately there is one pod is creating. So which pod is die and how it is detected, like how it detected that the pod is pod is die. So then immediately a new pod is generated, and how it is rescheduled. I have to create the pod as soon as possible when a pod dies. So the controller manager will do these things. So the controller manager detect the state, and whenever the pod is crashed, immediately one more is pod is created. So next one is for that, no, use the HitSet. HitCD is nothing but HitCD. It is a cluster brain. You can say cluster brain. No, cluster changes. Suppose any cluster change happen, so that is stored in this key value store. Okay, the etcd stored. So the example of the cluster setup, what it is, how it looks like, where how the new master is created, and how the it is added, and how exactly the structure looks like. And there's so many concepts like Minikube and kubectl. So many we will this is very basics I am telling here. In future classes and deep dive we will go through each of the concept like HitSet and its kubelet, kubeproxy. The process of the master node, as I said, the 4-process scheduler, controller, and the HitSet API server. We'll go through it. So next go to the Minikube, which is important. Minikube. So Minikube, what is Minikube? Minikube is nothing but a virtual machine. Nothing but you can say where we have to set up in the production, where you have production cluster setup. This then can be done in through a separate virtual machine, right? Minikube is nothing but a virtual machine setup where it can be where we have to create nodes, parts, master node, everything. That might be a local machine. Testing it is a different setup. It's a cluster. Cluster is where we have the resources, right? While certain what is Minikube? Nothing, local machine, I said, no, where it is having its own CPU, RAM, memory, and etc. Right? So that is Minikube is an open source called. It's an open source. As I said just now, is virtual machines where we have to buy the RAM, CPU, and all, right. The same way in the QH we have the open source virtual machine which we can build using Minikube. So Minikube is basically one node cluster where the master processor and worker process both are on one node, and this node will have Docker container running on it. So this is the important on it. So Minikube is nothing but where worker and the master and as well as the worker will be present on the Minikube. In the worker process itself, the Docker will be pre-installed. Minikube will create a virtual box on your laptop. So Minikube creates a node runs on the virtual box itself. Whenever the node runs on the, so it is nothing but it is a one node. We can say one node QAS architecture. Okay, this is about the Minikube. So far we have done this. So later sessions, in the coming sessions, we go through the next deep dive sessions. Thank you very much for listening so far. Thank you.